A little girl walked into the office and screamed, "You are my miracle daddy." Millionaire CEO cried. Before we dive into this incredible story, drop a comment below and share where you're tuning in from. Because what you're about to witness is a journey that might just move your soul. The transformation begins here. The 42nd floor of Wellington Tower sparkled beneath Manhattan's early sun. Marcus Wellington adjusted his Italian silk tie and walked confidently across the marble lobby of his empire, his steel-gray eyes fixed on financial charts glowing on his tablet. At just 38, he commanded a fortune of $3 billion, ran 14 companies, and hadn't shared a real smile in over 10 years. Power was his language, control was his belief system, and emotion. That was weakness in his world. His assistant Patricia struggled to keep pace beside him. "The board meeting begins in 20 minutes, Mr. Wellington." The quarterly projections. Marcus stopped abruptly. Sitting cross-legged on the immaculate marble floor by the reception desk was a little girl. She couldn't have been older than 6. Her golden curls framed her face, and she wore a faded pink dress that had clearly been worn many times. Her sneakers were worn out, and she hugged a small backpack with cartoon butterflies on it. But it was her eyes that stopped Marcus cold. The same piercing shade of blue as his own. "Security," Patricia whispered urgently into her phone. But Marcus raised his hand, silently signaling her to stop. The girl gazed up at him with a calmness that shook him. No fear, no hesitation, just a quiet strength far beyond her years. "Sir," she said, standing with perfect posture. "You're my miracle daddy." The words landed like a punch. Nearby executives halted mid-step, their conversations fading into silence. The entire reception area went still, the only sound the gentle hum of air conditioning. "What did you just say?" Marcus asked, his voice barely a whisper. Before he could even begin to understand, the girl opened her backpack and pulled out a wrinkled photo. She held it out to him with both hands, as if offering a sacred token. Marcus's tablet slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. The photo, though aged and folded, was instantly familiar. A young woman with warm brown eyes and a radiant smile, her hair glowing in sunlight as she laughed. The shot was taken in Central Park, by the fountain where he once... Victoria. He breathed. A tear slipped from his eye without warning, then another. In front of his staff, his board, his empire, Marcus Wellington, the man known for never breaking, began to cry. The little girl stepped closer and said softly, "Mommy told me you would come save us." Marcus knelt down to meet her gaze, his hands trembling as he held the photo. All around, whispers stirred and shocked faces watched, but he no longer noticed. "What's your name, sweetheart?" he asked gently. "Emma," she said clearly. "Emma Victoria Chen. Mommy gave me her middle name because she said it's the most beautiful name in the world." Marcus's heart ached. Victoria had always adored her name, saying it meant victory in Latin. "Where is your mommy, Emma?" he asked. Emma's composed expression faltered just slightly. "She's sick. Really sick. She sleeps a lot now, and sometimes can't get up. The doctor said we need special medicine, but we don't have enough money." "What kind of sickness?" Marcus asked, his tone soft but urgent. "The kind that makes your hair fall out and makes you throw up," Emma replied honestly. "But Mommy says she's fighting really hard, because she has to take care of me." "Cancer." The word sent a chill through Marcus like freezing water in his veins. Emma reached into her backpack again and took out more photographs. "Mommy kept these in a special box," she said. "She told me they're memories from when she was really happy." Marcus's hands trembled as he looked through them. Victoria at their college graduation. Victoria sipping coffee where they used to study. Victoria laughing at his jokes, her eyes glowing with love in every photo. She looked vibrant, alive, full of hope. "She talks about you," Emma went on. "When she thinks I'm asleep. She says you were the kindest man she ever met. She said that one day when I was old enough to understand, she'd tell me about my real daddy. Your real daddy, Marcus repeated in a soft whisper. Emma nodded seriously. Mommy told me he lived far away, like a prince in the sky. But she said if I ever really needed a miracle, I should find the man in the tall glass building and tell him I was Victoria's little girl. Marcus closed his eyes, struggling to hold back the tears building inside him. Where do you live, Emma? He asked. Queens. Apartment 4B on Maple Street. It's small, but Mommy fills it with stories and makes it feel big. Patricia reappeared, clearly uneasy. Mr. Wellington, the board is waiting. Cancel it, Marcus replied, without even glancing at her. Sir? She asked, stunned. Marcus rose to his feet, still holding Emma's small hand in his own. I said cancel everything, every meeting, every call. Nothing else matters right now. Looking down at Emma, he said with a firm, quiet voice, We're going to see your mommy. Right now. Emma's face brightened with the first real smile he'd seen from her. You'll really help, Mommy. I promise, Marcus said, and he meant it more deeply than any promise he'd made in the business world. As they headed toward the elevator, Emma tightened her grip on his hand. I knew you were my miracle daddy. Mommy was right about you. On the koibo, elevator doors closed behind them, taking Marcus away from the only world he'd known, and carrying him toward a future he never expected. The ride to Queens felt like stepping into another universe. Marcus sat in the back of his sleek black Bentley, Emma beside him, cheerfully talking about her favorite books, while the towering skyline of Manhattan disappeared behind them. The scenery shifted from high-rises of steel and glass to rows of brick buildings with fire escapes, from luxury boutiques to local bodegas with colorful, hand-painted signs. That's where I buy candy for 1 penny, Emma said, pointing at a tiny corner shop. And over there, that's where Mrs. Garcia teaches me Spanish words. She says I'm really smart. Marcus looked out the window, seeing everything through Emma's eyes, bright, full of wonder, and completely untouched by greed. He tried to remember the last time he noticed a world outside of balance sheets and business deals. They stopped in front of an aging brick building, the paint peeling and the fire escape rusted. Emma hopped out quickly, tugging at Marcus's hand. Come on, Mommy's on the 4th floor. The narrow stairwell smelled of old meals and bleach. Marcus, who was used to riding private elevators to his penthouse, found himself out of breath by the 3rd floor. Meanwhile, Emma moved ahead effortlessly, not even winded. She might be sleeping, she whispered, pulling a small key from her backpack. The medicine makes her super tired. The apartment was tiny, no bigger than Marcus's walk-in closet, but it was clean and filled with warmth. Children's drawings were taped to the fridge. A small shelf overflowed with library books. Handmade curtains let in soft afternoon light, and on a narrow bed in the far corner lay Victoria. Marcus froze, his breath caught. She looked so fragile, her once thick, dark hair now hidden under a soft pink scarf, her skin pale like porcelain. But then she opened her eyes and saw him standing in the doorway. And that familiar light was still there. Marcus, she said, her voice faint, stunned. In 3 steps, he was kneeling beside her bed, up close. The damage was unmistakable. Sunken cheeks, dark shadows under her eyes, hands trembling slightly. I'm here, he said softly, taking her hand in his. It felt so light, so delicate. Emma found me. Victoria's eyes welled up with tears. I never thought. I wasn't sure if you'd ever. She tried to sit up, but Marcus gently eased her back down. Don't speak. Just rest for now. He glanced around the small apartment, taking in the pill bottles beside the bed, the medical bills stacked on the kitchen table. How long, Victoria? How long have you been going through this alone? 2 years, she whispered. Emma doesn't know how serious it is. I've been trying to protect her. Marcus felt like his heart was crumbling inside him. 2 years. 2 years of chemo, of fear, of choosing medicine over meals, raising a child while battling death, all while he lived in luxury, clueless. You're coming with me, he said firmly. Right now. The best doctors, the best hospital. No more struggling. Victoria shook her head weakly. Marcus, I can't afford. I can, he said, cutting her off. I should have been here all along. Emma returned to the room, now dressed in her favorite outfit. Are we really going to help Mommy feel better? Marcus looked at the little girl, his daughter, and then at Victoria, the woman he never stopped loving. In that moment, he made a vow that would change everything. We're going to do more than help her, he said. We're going to become a family. Mount Sinai Hospital's private wing hummed with quiet efficiency. Within an hour of Marcus's call, Victoria was settled into a bright private room overlooking Central Park. Emma sat beside her, coloring. A new book Marcus had picked from the gift shop. Dr. Sarah Chen, the head oncologist, approached Marcus in the hallway. We'll need more detailed scans, she explained. But her condition is serious. What's the outlook? Marcus asked. Honestly, considering what she's been through, she's done incredibly well. Most patients with limited care wouldn't have lasted this long. Her willpower is rare. Marcus clenched his fists. All this time, Victoria had been slowly dying, just a few miles away, while he was completely unaware. Back in the room, he saw Emma showing her mother a picture. It's us at the park, Mommy. See? You're smiling and healthy, and Daddy's pushing me on the swing. Daddy? Victoria looked at Marcus with uncertainty. Emma nodded confidently. He's my miracle daddy. I always believed he'd come. She turned to Marcus with those same piercing blue eyes. Mommy, remember when I was little and that mean lady came to our old place? Victoria's face went pale. Emma, sweetheart. She scared me, Emma said innocently. She had white hair and wore shiny things. She yelled at Mommy, said bad words, and threw money at us. But Mommy threw it back and made her leave. Marcus felt something cold rise in his chest. What woman, Emma? He asked, though his gut already knew. She said she was my grandma, but she wasn't nice at all. She told Mommy I'd never meet my daddy, because I wasn't good enough for his family. The room went still except for the quiet beep of hospital machines. What did she look like? Marcus asked. Old, mean, sparkly jewelry. Her voice sounded like broken glass, and she came in a big black car with a driver. Emma tilted her head. Why do you look like Mommy when she gets really mad? Marcus turned to Victoria, his voice low and sharp. Eleanor was here? Victoria shut her eyes, tears spilling over. She came when Emma was a baby, said she'd been watching, said we were never to contact you. She offered me money to disappear, to move away forever and never tell Emma who her father was. And when I refused, she said she'd ruin any chance I had of finding you. Victoria whispered, pain in her eyes. She controlled everything. Your phone, your mail, your entire staff. She said if I ever tried to reach out, she'd make sure I lost Emma. Marcus felt a cold fury rise inside him, so sharp and deep it startled even him. His own mother had known about Emma for 4 whole years and had let his child grow up in hardship, all while keeping him completely in the dark. Daddy, Emma's soft voice broke through his storming thoughts. Are you crying? He quickly wiped his eyes and knelt beside her. Emma, I need to ask you something very important. Are you really my little girl? She giggled sweetly. Of course, silly. Mommy always said I have your eyes and your stubborn chin. She reached up and gently touched his face. Plus, I just know. Hearts don't lie. Dr. Chen cleared her throat gently from the doorway. Mr. Wellington, the DNA results have arrived. Marcus didn't need to see them. He already knew. Emma was his daughter, and Eleanor Wellington had years of deceit to answer for. Storming into the hallway, he raised his phone to his ear. Patricia answered on the first ring. Tricia, I need you to collect every phone record, every piece of mail, every message that's gone through my office over the past 6 years. Everything. Sir, that's quite a lot. Do it now, and check for anything from Victoria Chen, or anything about a child trying to reach me. There was a pause. Mr. Wellington, I think there's something you should know. Mrs. Eleanor Wellington, she has permanent instructions about your personal mail. Marcus froze mid-step. What kind of instructions? She reviews anything that seems personal before it's given to you. She said it was to protect you from people trying to take advantage of your money. Marcus's phone creaked in his tightening grip. Tricia, are you saying my mother has been screening my private mail for 6 years? Yes, sir. She also had your personal phone number routed through her assistant first. She claimed Family Matters needed oversight. Marcus shut his eyes, his whole body tense with rage. How many messages, Patricia? How many times did Victoria try to reach me? I don't know, sir. Mrs. Wellington handled those directly. Find out, he said, his voice sharp. Every letter, every voicemail, every single call. I want proof of everything my mother blocked. And Patricia? Yes, sir? You work for me, not her. That changes today. He hung up and walked back into Victoria's hospital room. Dr. Chen was explaining treatment options, but Marcus barely heard her words. Only one thing mattered now. How much will it cost? He interrupted. All of it. The best care you can give. Mr. Wellington, it's extensive. Chemotherapy, surgery, months of specialized support. I'm not asking about the price. I want results. What does Victoria need to survive? Dr. Chen looked over at Victoria, who was staring at Marcus with disbelief. With proper care and the experimental treatment we mentioned, her chances will improve greatly, but it'll cost several $100,000. Done, Marcus said without hesitation, pulling out his phone. I'm wiring the funds right now. Start everything immediately. Marcus, Victoria whispered. You don't have to. Yes, I do. He sat on the edge of her bed, gently taking her hand. I should have been here. I should have taken you to every appointment. Sat beside you. Read stories to Emma when you were too weak. I should have been part of her life every single day. Emma looked up from her coloring book. Will the doctors make Mommy better now? They're going to try their very best, Marcus said softly, brushing her golden curls. And while they do, we're going to make sure you and Mommy have everything you need. Like what? Emma asked, curious. Marcus smiled. A real, heartfelt smile he hadn't felt in years. Like a safe place to live, close to the hospital. Like the best doctors money can find. Like a daddy who's never, ever going away again. Victoria's tears began to fall. But this time, they were tears of relief. There's one more thing, Marcus added gently. I'm going to make sure my mother pays for what she did. She stole 4 years from us, Emma. Years I'll never get back. Emma's expression turned concerned. Are you going to be mean to her? Marcus looked at her innocent face, his daughter, and his heart softened, even while his anger stayed burning. No, sweetheart. I'm going to tell her the truth. And sometimes, that's harder than being mean. Within 48 hours, Marcus had completely rearranged his life. He purchased a luxury apartment just 3 blocks from Mount Sinai Hospital, beautifully furnished and equipped with everything Emma might need. The living room had a cozy reading corner with soft cushions and shelves full of children's books. Emma's room was painted soft lavender, with glowing stars across the ceiling. It's like a palace, Emma squealed, spinning around joyfully. "Mommy, look! I have my own bathroom, with a step stool." Victoria sat carefully on the plush couch, still weak from her first round of treatment, but already looking more alive than before. "Marcus, this is too much," she said quietly. "It's not enough," he said, kneeling beside her. "Nothing will ever be enough to make up for the time I wasn't here." Marcus also hired Mrs. Rosa Martinez, a kind woman in her 50s who specialized in caring for families in medical crises. She spoke fluent Spanish, which Emma loved, and had a warm, comforting laugh that filled the apartment with life. "Mr. Marcus," Rosa said, approaching gently. Little Emma didn't eat lunch. She says her stomach feels strange. Marcus looked over at Emma, who now sat quietly on the floor, no longer spinning or exploring. "Emma?" he asked gently. "Is this a dream?" she whispered. "Like when Mommy was really sick and I used to pretend we lived in a castle." Marcus felt his heart tear again. This little girl had been through so much she didn't even trust happiness. He sat beside her on the floor. "Emma, look at me. This is real. I'm real. And I promise, no matter what happens, you and Mommy will always have a safe, happy home. But what if you change your mind?" she asked. "What if someday you don't want a little girl anymore?" Victoria tried to stand, but Marcus motioned for her to stay seated. This was a moment for just him and Emma. "Do you know what a promise is, Emma?" he asked. She nodded solemnly. When daddies make promises to their little girls, they're more important than any deal, more important than all the money in the world. He held out his pinky. "Will you make a pinky promise with me?" Emma wrapped her tiny pinky around his. "I promise," Marcus said clearly, "that I will be your daddy every single day for the rest of my life. I promise you, and Mommy will always have everything you need. And I promise, no one, not even mean grandmas, will ever hurt our family again." "Really?" Emma whispered. "Really? And Emma, I need you to make me a promise too." "What promise?" she asked. "Promise me that if you ever feel scared or worried, you'll tell me. Because daddies can't fix what they don't know about." Emma nodded with deep seriousness and sealed their pinky promise with a kiss, just like her mother had taught her. That evening, Marcus sat in his empty penthouse across town, staring blankly at financial reports. For the first time in his life, the numbers didn't matter. His phone buzzed. A message from Emma sent through Victoria's phone. "Good night, Daddy. Thank you for making the scary go away." Marcus smiled, closed his laptop, and headed back to the apartment. He was finally learning that home wasn't made of walls. It was made of the people inside. He had closed billion-dollar deals and led high-stakes negotiations. But nothing was harder or more rewarding than learning to braid a 6-year-old's hair. "Ow, Daddy, you're pulling too tight." Emma giggled, sitting cross-legged on her bed. "Sorry, sweetheart," Marcus muttered, struggling with the elastic bands. "Maybe we should just leave it down today." "No way. Mommy always does 2 braids before school. It's our tradition." Victoria stood at the doorway, wrapped in a soft robe. Her smile was brighter than it had been in years. The chemotherapy was working, and watching Marcus grow into a loving father was healing a part of her heart that medicine never could. "Here," she said gently, sitting beside them. "It's like this. Over, under, and pull." Marcus watched, like a student preparing for a final exam. "Over, under, pull, got it." He took over the second braid. This time, Emma didn't flinch. "Perfect," she squealed, running to the mirror. "Daddy, you're getting really good at this." The pride Marcus felt in that moment was deeper than anything he'd known from business success. Later that morning, Marcus did something he hadn't done in 15 years of running Wellington Enterprises. He called in late. Very late. But, Mr. Wellington, Patricia began, confused. You have the Morrison meeting at 9. Reschedule it, he said calmly. I'm taking my daughter to school. Emma insisted on holding his hand as they walked the short 2 blocks to her new private school. She talked excitedly about her teacher, Miss Sarah, and her best friend Lucy, who had a pet hamster named Mr. Whiskers. Daddy, will you come to parent reading day? Miss Sarah says daddies can read stories to the whole class. Marcus, who had spoken confidently in front of hundreds of investors, suddenly felt nervous at the idea of reading to a room full of 6-year-olds. What kind of stories do you like? He asked. Once about brave princesses and dragons and magic, she said without hesitation. But the dragon has to be nice at the end. Because mean dragons make me sad. Then we'll find the nicest dragon story ever written, Marcus promised. At the school gate, Emma wrapped her arms around his legs in a tight hug. Thank you for walking me, Daddy. Tommy's daddy never walks him anywhere. Marcus watched her run through the doors, her backpack bouncing and her braids swinging, and as his phone buzzed with urgent calls, he did something he'd never done before. He turned it off. That evening, Marcus and Victoria sat on the apartment's small balcony while Emma did her homework at the kitchen table. Even before I got sick, Victoria said softly. Emma always seemed like she was waiting for something. Now I know what it was. I missed so much. Marcus replied, voice heavy with regret. Her first steps, her first words, her birthdays. Victoria reached over and took his hand. You're here now. That's what matters. Through the window. They watched Emma bent over her notebook, tongue sticking out in concentration as she wrote. When she finished, she held up her paper proudly. Look, I wrote, I love my daddy in my very best handwriting. Marcus felt tears gather in his eyes. In 6 years of boardrooms and business wins, he'd never received anything as priceless as that crooked, beautiful note of love. The St. Catherine's Academy Autumn Parent-Teacher Conference was held in the school's elegant library, filled with well-dressed Manhattan parents who all seemed to know each other. Marcus adjusted his tie, suddenly self-conscious. He had purposely worn a simpler suit, but still felt overdressed beside the other fathers in sweaters and khakis. Mr. Wellington? Miss Sarah approached, Emma's teacher smiling warmly. I'm so glad you came. Emma talks about you all the time. She does? Marcus asked, a flutter of nervous pride in his chest. Oh yes, my daddy this, my daddy that. She's like a new person since you came into her life, more confident, more social. They sat in child-sized plastic, chairs that forced Marcus's knees nearly to his chest. All around them, other parents casually discussed soccer practices and playdates. Conversations that felt foreign to Marcus. Emma's academic growth has been impressive. Miss Sarah continued, opening a folder. Her reading level has advanced 2 grades in just 6 weeks. But more than that, she's engaging with the class now. Before, she was very quiet. What changed? Marcus asked, though deep down, he already knew. Security, Miss Sarah said. She told the class during show and tell that her daddy was the strongest man in the world because he came down from the clouds to rescue her and her mommy. The class was captivated. Marcus winced slightly. I hope that didn't cause any trouble. Mr. Wellington, Miss Sarah said gently. Emma glows when she talks about you. Whatever the story is, it's given her something she needed. A commotion near the reading corner drew their attention. Emma stood surrounded by classmates, her voice lively as she waved her arms. That's my daddy, she announced proudly, pointing at Marcus. He teaches me about business and numbers, and he makes the yummiest chocolate chip pancakes, even when he burns them. Tommy Patterson crossed his arms. My dad says your dad wasn't around before. Where was he? Marcus, tensed, unsure how to respond, but Emma straightened up, her blue eyes bright and fierce. My daddy was lost, she said with confidence. But I found him, because I'm smart. And brave. She raised her chin. Now he reads to me every night, helps me braid my hair, and never misses anything important. But why was he lost? Tommy asked again. Emma took a moment to think. Sometimes grown-ups forget what really matters, and it takes little kids to remind them. My daddy forgot how to be happy, until I showed him how. The room fell silent, the grown-ups stunned by her honesty and clarity. Mrs. Patterson, Tommy's mom, approached Marcus quietly. Your daughter, she's amazing. The way she stood up for you. That's real love. Marcus turned to look at Emma, who was now helping a smaller child pick a book off a shelf. His chest ached from the emotion. She saved me, he said, softly. I didn't even know I needed saving. On the drive home, Emma chatted excitedly about her friends and the upcoming fall festival. Daddy, will you come to the pumpkin carving contest? All the other daddies are going. I wouldn't miss it. Marcus replied, and for the first time, he meant it with all his heart. Victoria's health had improved enough for longer talks. That night, after Emma had fallen asleep, she and Marcus sat together in the living room, ready to face the truth they had both avoided. I need to know everything, Marcus said quietly. About Eleanor, about why you never reached out after college, about all of it. Victoria pulled a blanket around her shoulders and took a deep breath. Do you remember our last night before graduation? Of course, he said. We talked about moving to the city together, finding jobs, getting married. You told me you'd never been happier. I meant every word, Victoria said. But the next morning, Eleanor showed up at my dorm. Her hands trembled. She knew everything about my family, my financial background, my scholarship. She told me I was exactly the kind of girl who would fake a pregnancy to trap her son for money. Marcus clenched his jaw but said nothing, letting her continue. She offered me $50,000 to walk away from you forever. When I refused, she threatened to revoke my scholarship and said no reputable company would ever hire me. Her voice cracked. Then she told me something that destroyed me. She said you had already accepted a job in London and planned to leave without saying goodbye. That I was just a fling you'd outgrow. Marcus stood abruptly, pacing toward the window. That's not true. I know that now, Victoria said gently. But I was 22 and scared. When I couldn't reach you for 3 days after graduation, your phone disconnected, your apartment empty. I believed her. My phone wasn't disconnected. I tried calling you nonstop, Marcus said, his voice tight. She had my number, changed. Later she told me she'd blocked dozens of your messages. Victoria wiped her tears. I spent my entire pregnancy thinking you didn't want us. I worked 3 jobs, lived in a tiny studio, and convinced myself we were better off, alone. Marcus returned to the couch, sitting beside her, overwhelmed. When Eleanor visited you after Emma was born, what did she say? She told me if I ever tried to contact you or told Emma the truth, she'd use her power and money to take Emma away. I was a single mother on minimum wage. I believed she could do it. So you stayed silent for 6 years, he said. Victoria nodded. Until the cancer diagnosis. Then I couldn't stand the idea of Emma never knowing you. I started saving, planning to find you. But I got too sick, and Emma found you instead. That little girl is braver than both of us combined, Marcus said with a choked laugh. Victoria nodded, smiling through tears. She said she asked around until someone told her about Wellington Tower. Then she took the subway all by herself and walked straight into your life. Marcus held her hands tightly. I'm going to make Eleanor pay for what she did to us. To you. To Emma. Marcus, no. Don't let the anger consume you. This isn't just anger, Victoria. It's justice. She stole 6 years of my daughter's life, let you suffer with cancer, while I could have been there. His voice hardened. She's going to answer for it. 3 weeks later, Dr. Chen delivered the news they'd been praying for. Victoria's latest scan showed major progress. The tumor had shrunk by 40%, and her blood markers were improving. If this continues, Dr. Chen explained, we can reduce her treatment intensity within 2 months. Victoria cried with relief. Emma danced around the hospital room, shouting, Mommy's getting better. Daddy, did you hear? Mommy's really getting better. Marcus felt something heavy lift from his chest. A weight he hadn't even realized was there. For the first time since all of this began, he allowed himself to believe they had a future. That afternoon, they celebrated with ice cream in Central Park. Emma ran ahead to feed the ducks while Marcus and Victoria strolled behind, her arm wrapped in his for support. I've been thinking, Victoria said slowly, about us, about what happens when I'm well again. Marcus paused. What are you trying to say? I mean, you saved my life. You gave Emma everything she could ever need, but I don't want you to feel like you have to, Victoria said, her voice soft. Marcus turned toward her fully. Victoria, I'm not here because I have to. I'm here because I love you. I never stopped. But so much has changed. We've both changed, she whispered. You're right, Marcus said, nodding. We are different, and I'm better now, because of you and Emma. This isn't about guilt or making up for the past. This is about building something new, together. Victoria studied his face, searching for any hesitation. Are you absolutely sure? Because Emma can't go through losing another father figure, and I can't survive losing you again. You won't, Marcus said firmly. We won't. That night, Marcus kept his promise to teach Emma about business. They sat at the kitchen table, play money and toy stores spread out before them while Victoria rested on the nearby couch. Okay, Daddy, Emma said. So if I have $10 and I want to buy this doll that costs $8, how much will I have left? $2, Marcus replied with a smile. You're getting really good at this. But what if I want to save some money too? Mommy says saving is important. Then maybe you spend $6 today on a smaller toy, Marcus said, and save the other $4 for something special later. Like a present for Mommy when she's all better? That's a perfect idea, Marcus said, beaming. Later. That night, after Emma had gone to bed, Marcus sat in his home office answering emails. He'd started to delegate more work to his senior staff, a surprise to them, after years of him micromanaging every detail. His phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. I know what you're doing, Marcus. This won't last. Mother. Thus a peaceful night was shattered in a second. Eleanor was watching, waiting, scheming. He deleted the message without replying. But the damage was done. Their fragile happiness, everything they'd built, was still under threat. Eleanor wouldn't give up easily, and Marcus knew now that the real fight hadn't even begun. 2 months into their new life together, the Wellington Chen household had developed its own rhythm. Their mornings started with Marcus fumbling through breakfast duties while Emma stood on her step stool, supervising the chaos. The disasters were frequent, but they made Victoria laugh every time. Daddy, the eggs are doing that smoky thing again, Emma yelled, pointing at the frying pan. Right, turn down the heat, Marcus muttered, waving a dish towel under the smoke alarm before it went off. Victoria had gotten strong enough to take short walks and even attend some of Emma's school events. She'd gained weight. Her hair was growing back in soft waves, and the shadows under her eyes had faded. I have an idea, Victoria said one morning over a slightly burnt breakfast. What if we went to the zoo this weekend? Emma's been asking for ages. I think I'm ready for a full day out. Emma nearly choked on her orange juice. Really, Mommy? The whole zoo? With penguins and lions and everything? Everything, Marcus confirmed. surprising even himself with how much he was looking forward to it. Life had settled into something resembling peace. Marcus worked from home 3 days a week, never missed a single school event, and had become skilled in tea parties, complete with silly British accents that made Emma laugh until her cheeks hurt. But under all the laughter and warm routines, something darker stirred. Eleanor's texts had grown more frequent, more venomous. "You're making a mistake. That woman and her child will ruin everything. I know secrets about Victoria Chen that will change your mind." Marcus deleted every message, refusing to reply. But their weight lingered. He'd already hired a private security firm to monitor the building and Emma's school. He told Victoria it was just a precaution. But inside, he knew why. One evening, while helping Emma with her homework, she looked up seriously. "Daddy, are you worried?" Marcus paused, his pen midair. "What makes you ask that, sweetheart?" "You get this wrinkle. Right here," she said, pointing to the spot between his eyebrows. Mommy used to get it when she was really sick. The sharpness of her observation stunned him. "Sometimes grown-ups worry about keeping their family safe," Marcus said gently. "Are we safe?" she asked. He pulled her into his lap and held her close. "You and Mommy are the safest people in my life. I promise." "Good," Emma said, turning back to her math. "Because I finally have everything I ever prayed for. I don't want anything to change." That night, Marcus stood on the balcony, gazing out at the river of lights stretching across the city. Victoria joined him, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders. "She's right, you know," Victoria said softly. "You do get that wrinkle when you're worried." "Eleanor isn't done," he said. "She's planning something." Victoria leaned into him. "Then we face it, together." He wrapped an arm around her, breathing in her presence. Solid. Real. Whatever Eleanor had in mind, he was ready. The storm hit on a Tuesday afternoon. Emma was at school, Victoria at her weekly checkup. Marcus was working in his office when Rosa burst through the door, alarm on her face. "Mr. Marcus, there are people downstairs asking to see you. Lawyers, and an older woman with them. She looks very angry." Marcus's stomach dropped. "Eleanor, call security. Tell them not to let anyone up. Then call my lawyer, David Cheney. His number's in my phone." "But, sir." "They're already in the elevator." The woman. She told the doorman she's your mother. The apartment door swung open without warning. Eleanor walked in, draped in her signature black Chanel suit, eyes icy. Behind her were two expensive-looking lawyers carrying briefcases. "Hello, Marcus," she said, voice syrupy sweet. "You've been ignoring my calls." "Get out," Marcus said, standing slowly. "You have no right to be here." "Actually," she said, gesturing to one of the men. "This is James Harrison, a family court attorney. We're here about my granddaughter." "She is not your granddaughter," Marcus snapped. "You made that very clear 6 years ago." "That was a mistake," Eleanor said, her tone brittle. "I've reconsidered. As her only living grandparent, I'm entitled to visitation. Over my dead body." The lawyer stepped forward. "Mr. Wellington, your mother has filed for supervised visitation with Emma Chen Wellington. Given the changes in her living situation and your relationship with Ms. Chen, a preliminary hearing has been scheduled." Marcus felt dizzy. "What are you even talking about?" "We're questioning whether this home is suitable for raising a child," Eleanor said smoothly. "A terminally ill mother, a father who suddenly wants to play house, a questionable arrangement at best." "Eleanor, I swear." "You'll what?" she challenged. "Take me to court. I have investigators, medical records. I know Victoria's history. Her arrest for shoplifting when Emma was 3. Lies." Marcus hissed. "It's all documented. Formula and diapers. Charges dropped. But the record exists. What kind of woman exposes a child to that?" What kind of woman lies to her own son and steals 6 years from him? Prove it. Eleanor sneered. It's your word against mine. I have lawyers. She has nothing. The front door opened. Victoria stepped inside and froze at the sight. Her face turned pale. She whispered. Hello, dear. Eleanor said with a venomous smile. Looking better. Amazing what money can buy, isn't it? Marcus stepped between them. Rosa, call the police. These people are trespassing. Actually, said the second lawyer, we have a court order for a welfare check on the child. We'll inspect the home and speak with her when she returns from school. The hell you will. Marcus growled. Eleanor's mask slipped. You threw away your future. For a dying woman and her bastard child. I won't let you destroy the Wellington name. The words landed like knives. But Marcus didn't explode. He felt something colder. Clearer. A calm sense of resolve. You're right about one thing, he said. I did throw away my legacy. And it was the best choice I've ever made. 3 days later, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. The annual Wellington Thanksgiving dinner was scheduled for Sunday evening at Eleanor's Fifth Avenue home, a tradition running 30 years. I'm not hiding anymore, Marcus told Victoria as they sat in their living room. I'm done letting her run our lives with fear. Marcus, what are you planning? I'm thinking, Marcus said quietly. It's time the whole Wellington family knows the truth about Eleanor and about us. Victoria's face went pale. You want to take us to her house, introduce my daughter to the family she tried to erase. I want to introduce Emma to the people who truly deserve to meet her, Marcus replied. That Sunday evening, Marcus's sleek black sedan rolled to a stop outside the towering Wellington mansion. Emma pressed her face against the window, wide-eyed at the grand estate with its massive columns and flawless gardens. Is this where you grew up, Daddy? It is, Marcus answered, but it never felt like home. Not the way our apartment does. Victoria squeezed his hand, nervous. She wore a simple yet graceful navy blue dress Marcus had picked for her. Emma wore her favorite pink dress with butterfly sleeves. The butler, James, opened the door, clearly surprised. Master Marcus, Mrs. Wellington didn't mention you were bringing guests. That's because she doesn't know, Marcus said, walking past him with Victoria and Emma by his side. Inside the massive dining room, the sound of laughter and conversation from uncles, aunts, and cousins, 23 relatives in all, filled the air. But it all stopped abruptly the moment Marcus entered. Eleanor, seated at the head of the long, polished table, went stiff with fury. What is the meaning of this? She hissed. Marcus calmly pulled out 2 chairs across from her. For Victoria and Emma. I'd like you all to meet my family, he said. This is Victoria, the woman I love, and this is Emma, my daughter. Gasps rippled through the room. Cousin Sarah dropped her wine glass. Uncle Robert choked on his bread. Marcus, Eleanor said in a voice like steel. Remove them immediately. No. Marcus remained standing, his voice steady and clear. For 6 years, the woman sitting at the head of this table deceived me. She blocked calls, destroyed letters, and threatened the mother of my child to keep us apart. That's enough, Eleanor snapped. When Victoria tried to tell me I had a daughter, Eleanor made sure the message never reached me. When Emma was born, she showed up at their apartment and threatened to take Emma away if Victoria ever spoke to me again. The room fell into a stunned silence. While Victoria worked 3 jobs to raise our daughter, while she battled cancer alone, while Emma grew up without her father, Eleanor watched me live a lie, and she let it happen. Eleanor stood up, suddenly, her voice shaking with rage. How dare you bring that woman's lies into my house? Grandmother Eleanor. Emma's small voice sliced through the tension like a blade. Why are you so angry? Daddy says families are supposed to love each other. The child's innocent question landed harder than any accusation. For a brief second, Eleanor's expression cracked. Something that looked like regret passed over her features, but only for a heartbeat. She is not my granddaughter, Eleanor said coldly. And you are no longer my son. Marcus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You're right. I'm not your son anymore. I'm Emma's father, Victoria's partner, and I'm done with this family's poison. He turned to the room. If anyone here wants to know their true niece, cousin, or granddaughter, you're welcome in our home. But if you choose Eleanor's hate over love, you've made your choice. 3 people stood. His cousin David, his aunt Margaret, and most unexpectedly, his uncle Charles, Eleanor's own brother. I've watched you poison this family for 40 years, Charles said quietly. It ends today. Marcus took Victoria's arm and Emma's hand. We're leaving, but Emma has something to say first. Emma looked up at Eleanor, her piercing blue eyes glowing with innocence and grace. I forgive you for being mean, Grandmother Eleanor. Daddy says love forgives. The room fell silent again, but this time with tears. No one spoke. The next morning, Marcus sat in his lawyer's office, stacks of papers spread across the polished wood desk. David Chen, his attorney, looked up with concern. Marcus, are you absolutely sure you're about to give up $1 billion inheritance? I'm not walking away from something, Marcus said calmly, signing the documents one by one. I'm walking towards something better. I want all connections to Eleanor Wellington severed. Take me off all family trusts. Remove me from the family businesses. Everything. David hesitated. This is permanent. Once I file this, there's no turning back. I want it to be permanent. Marcus had spent the night making the most meaningful decision of his life. He was stepping away from the Wellington empire. He was transferring all his shares to a charitable foundation, and he was legally giving Emma the name she deserved. Emma Wellington Chen. There's one more thing, Marcus added, pulling a small velvet box from his coat pocket. Prepare adoption papers for Emma, and marriage papers for Victoria and me. David smiled. Now that's paperwork I'll happily handle. That afternoon, Marcus came home to the smell of fresh cookies and the sound of laughter. Victoria and Emma were baking in the kitchen, flour dusting their faces, their clothes, and most of the room. The scene stopped him cold. It was domestic, chaotic, perfect. Daddy. Emma ran to him, pressing floury handprints into his shirt. We made cookies. Chocolate chip. Want to try one? They're a little crispy. Victoria called out, smiling. They're perfect, Marcus said, biting into one and grinning. Just like everything else in this kitchen. Victoria looked at him closely. You look different. Lighter. Somehow. I am lighter, Marcus said, pulling her close without caring about the flour. I just gave away $3 billion, and I've never felt wealthier. What do you mean? She asked softly. Marcus knelt down so he could look Emma in the eyes. Sweetheart, how would you feel about having the same last name as me? Emma's eyes widened. Really? I could be Emma Wellington Chen? If you want to be. Yes, 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 she shouted, jumping up and down. Then she stopped. But what about Mommy? Will she have your name too? Marcus looked up at Victoria, his heartbeat thudding. Well, that depends on whether Mommy wants to marry Daddy. Victoria's hands flew to her mouth as Marcus opened the small, velvet box. Victoria Chen, you and Emma saved me. In ways I'm still learning. You taught me that love isn't something you control. It's something you surrender to. Will you marry me? The ring was simple, elegant, not the kind of flashy diamond Eleanor would have picked, but a delicate solitaire that shimmered gently in the kitchen light. Marcus, Victoria whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. Are you sure? After everything with your family. They're not my family anymore, Marcus said with steady conviction. You are. Emma is. This is my family. Say yes, Mommy. Emma bounced with excitement. Yes, so we can all have the same name and be a real family, forever. Victoria looked at Marcus, then at Emma, then back again. Yes, she whispered. Then louder, her eyes shining. Yes, absolutely yes. Marcus gently slipped the ring onto her finger as Emma clapped and twirled with joy around the kitchen. When he kissed Victoria, it tasted like tears and cookie dough and a forever they never thought they'd have. We're getting married, Emma shouted to the empty apartment. Getting married and we're going to live happily ever after. For the first time in his life, Marcus actually believed in happily ever after too. 6 months later, Central Park had burst into bloom. Alive, with the colors of spring, Marcus Wellington stood beneath a white arch, simple and elegant, waiting for the most important people in his life. Emma came first, glowing in a soft yellow dress, carefully tossing rose petals from her basket as she smiled at every guest. The crowd was small but full of meaning. David Chen, Aunt Margaret, Uncle Charles, Rosa Martinez, Sarah from Emma's school, and Dr. Chen, who had become like extended family during Victoria's battle. Then came Victoria, radiant in a flowing, cream dress that danced around her legs with each step. Her once fallen hair had grown back in soft, healthy waves. She held a bouquet of wildflowers Emma had proudly helped select. Her eyes stayed locked on Marcus the entire way down the aisle. Dearly beloved, the minister began, but Marcus barely heard him. All he could focus on was Victoria's smile, Emma's beaming face from her honorary seat as maid of honor, and the overwhelming feeling that every step in his life, every fall, every loss, had led him to this moment. When it was time for vows, Marcus spoke straight from his heart. Victoria, 6 months ago, I thought success meant controlling everything and everyone. But you showed me something else. That real success is about who you protect, who you love. Emma taught me that the best things in life aren't earned. They're gifts, given freely by hearts that see you as worth loving. Victoria's vows were simple, but they struck deep. Marcus, you didn't just save my life. You gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever. Hope. You believed in us when I couldn't believe in myself. You chose love over legacy, family over fortune. And I promise to spend every day reminding you, you made the right choice. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Emma shouted, with so much joy that a group of pigeons scattered from the nearby trees. The reception was held in a cozy restaurant overlooking the park. No ice sculptures, no fancy orchestra, just honest food, heartfelt speeches, and Emma spinning joyfully on the dance floor with anyone willing to join her. During dinner, Dr. Chen pulled Marcus aside. I have news, she said, smiling. Victoria's scans came back completely clean. There's no sign of cancer. She's officially in full remission. Marcus felt his legs weaken. The relief, the gratitude. It flooded through him all at once. That evening, the three of them sat on a park bench, watching as the sun melted the sky into golden pink shades. Mrs. Wellington, Marcus said, trying out her new name with a teasing smile. How does it feel to be married to a man who gave up his fortune for you? Victoria laughed softly. Feels like I married the richest man in the world. Daddy, Emma said, climbing into his lap. Are you happy we found you? Marcus looked at his daughter. Officially his daughter now, legally and in every other way that mattered. And at his wife, healthy, glowing, and radiant in the soft light. 6 months ago, he had been worth $3 billion and felt completely hollow. Now, he had a modest consulting firm, a trust fund set up for Emma's future, and a kind of wealth no money could ever match. Emma, he said, kissing her hair, finding you was the best business deal I've ever made. What kind of deal? The kind where I traded everything I thought I wanted for everything I truly needed. As they walked home through the same park where Victoria and Marcus had once fallen in love, Emma skipped between them, holding both their hands. Tell me the story again, Daddy, she said, about how I walked into your office and asked for a miracle, Daddy. Well, Marcus began, his voice full of warmth. Once upon a time there was a little girl, braver than she knew, who walked into a tall glass tower and reminded a lost man how to love. And as their laughter echoed through the trees and the soft twilight wrapped around them, Marcus knew some stories really do have a happily ever after.